I came back to piano as an adult, I was convinced that fast sight reading was a superpower and one that I definitely wasn't born with. For a while in the beginning, I kind of got stuck playing the same few pieces on repeat because trying anything new felt like deciphering an alien language, one painful note at a time. I'd sit at the piano squinting at the page and the music would just kind of stutter out. It was clumsy, it was frustrating, and honestly it made me feel useless. Then I'd watch other musicians just open a book and play, and I was sure I was missing the right gene. But gradually I started to understand some simple principles that pretty much changed everything. Not complicated, not magical, but they unlocked my brain's ability to read music fluently and pretty much doubled my sight reading speed, and today I'm going to share them with you. Does any of that sound familiar? Maybe you feel like your sight reading progress is moving at a snail's pace. You spend more time fixing mistakes than actually making music. Well, if that's you, I need you to know, first of all, that you're not alone, and it's not because you lack talent. The problem is the method you're using, and we can fix that. For a long time, I was stuck in that note-by-note trap. I figured if I just stared at the notes harder and practiced for hours and hours, I'd eventually speed up, but I didn't. My progress was minimal. The problem was I was practicing the wrong way, and I was actually reinforcing the exact bad habits that were holding me back. The breakthrough, I suppose, came when I stopped trying to force it and started to understand how our brains actually process information. Well, it turns out great sight reading isn't about having faster eyes, it's about using a smarter strategy. So the 3 strategies I'm about to share are less about raw practice and more about shifting your entire approach. They are learning to see the big picture, changing how you think about speed and mistakes, and training your hands to work without your eyes babysitting them. So if you've completely had it with that sight reading torture and you're ready to start playing new music with confidence, let's get into the first principle. So the first big change is to stop reading notes and start recognizing patterns. The single biggest mistake most of us make is trying to identify every single note as we play it. So we look at the page and our brain goes, okay, that's a C, find C on the piano, okay, got it, next note, it's an E, find E. But this going note by note is the musical version of reading a sentence by spelling out each letter. So imagine trying to read a book like this. T, h, k, t, s, t. You'd be so focused on the letters you'd have no idea what the sentence was about. Reading language is effortless for us because we don't see letters, we see words and phrases. Our brains are just incredible pattern recognition machines. We see the shape of a word and instantly know what it is, and the exact same principle applies to music. Great sight readers don't see a random jumble of dots on a page. They see musical words, they see intervals, chords, arpeggios, and they see them as single recognizable shapes. So a third, a skip from one line to the next or from a space to the next, has a distinct look and feel under your fingers. A major chord in root position has a familiar shape that your hand can just form without thinking. So the secret is to shift your focus from naming notes to recognizing the relationship between them. So is the next note a step up? Is it a jump down? Is this cluster of notes a chord shape that you know? And so how do you practice this? Well, start small, take a really simple piece of music. Before you even play it, just scan through, and instead of naming the notes, describe the shape of the melody. So for example, you could say, okay, this starts in a G and then it steps up and it steps up again and then it skips down a third. So now play that while thinking about the movement, not the note names. So you're training your brain to process music in chunks, and that's so much more efficient. Here's a quick exercise. Play a simple 5-finger scale and now look at how it's written. Do you see that pattern? It's just a staircase of steps. So if you start looking for that staircase pattern everywhere, you'll find it. You'll begin to see parts of scales hidden in all kinds of music. And you can do the same with basic chords. So if you play a C major chord, look at its shape on the page and then find other major chords and see how that same shape just moves up and down the staff. So now you're building a visual library of musical patterns, and when you focus on patterns, you cut the amount of information that your brain has to deal with. So instead of 5 individual notes, you're processing one 5-note scale pattern. So that one shift alone is the foundation of fluid sight reading, and it's the most critical step to doubling your speed. Principle number 2 is to slow down. So what do you do when you want to get faster at something? Your gut tells you to just try and go faster, but with sight reading, this is another trap. The second principle sounds a bit backward, but I need you to trust me. If you want to get faster, you have to slow down. And to be more specific, the goal is to practice at a tempo where you can play the music with almost perfect accuracy. So no stopping, no hesitating, no wrong notes. You want a manageable tempo, the speed of no mistakes. It might feel painfully slow at first, but this is where the magic happens. When you try to sight read too fast, you're not really reading, you're guessing a lot of it. You're gambling on notes, rushing rhythms, and what happens is your brain just flips into panic mode. And this panic practicing doesn't just not help, it actually makes you worse. Because it trains you to make mistakes, it builds anxiety, and it reinforces the idea that you're really bad at this. And plus you butcher the rhythm, which is arguably more important than the notes for making something sound like music. The key is to find a tempo so steady, so calm, that your brain has the breathing room to process what's happening on the page and to tell your fingers what's coming next. By playing slowly and accurately, you create a positive feedback loop. You play correctly and that builds confidence. That confidence kills the panic and that lets your brain work better. So that's how you build real solid skill. Because the goal isn't just speed, it's fluency and continuity. So I'd like to suggest a new habit, the 5-minute daily challenge. Every day, just commit to 5 minutes of sight reading. Because consistency is way more important than occasional marathon sessions. First of all, find music that's well below your current playing level, because sight reading material should feel easy. If you constantly have to stop and figure out the notes, it's too hard. Set a metronome to a very slow speed, and before you start, scan the music to get the lay of the land. And now play it from start to finish. Your one and only rule is do not stop. If you make a mistake, you're forbidden from going back to fix it. Just keep going, locked into that steady pulse no matter what, because playing through your mistakes trains you to keep processing music in real time, and that's the whole point of sight reading. If you play it perfectly, nudge the metronome up a few beats and go again. But if you're making more than one or two little mistakes, then the tempo is probably too fast, drop it back down. This 5-minute habit does two things. First of all, it makes practice feel easy and it builds a consistent routine. And secondly, it forces you to prioritise accuracy and flow over raw speed, which ironically is the real secret to getting faster. Principle number 3 is to look ahead, not down. The final secret is about where you put your eyes, and this is a total game changer. You have to train yourself to keep your eyes on the music and stop looking down at your hands all the time. This is probably the hardest habit to break, but it's non-negotiable for getting faster, because every time you glance down at your hands, you lose your place in the music. And then you have to look back up and you waste precious time trying to find wherever you were in the music. And that constant up and down motion is what causes the stops and starts that kill your musical flow. But this is about more than just not looking down. It's about learning to look ahead as well. So just like when you read a sentence aloud, your eyes are always a few words ahead of the one you're speaking. Good sight readers do exactly the same thing. While their hands are playing the current bar, their eyes are already scanning the next one. And even if you're not consciously taking in what the notes are, your brain is already pre-processing, so it gives you a crucial head start. It lets you anticipate what's coming, maybe a big leap or a key change or a tricky rhythm, and it gets your brain and fingers ready before you get there. This anticipation stops you from panicking and it reduces the hesitation. To do this, you have to build a stronger mental map of the keyboard, so you need to learn to trust your hands. You're developing what's called proprioception, which is basically your brain's ability to know where your body parts are in space. And you can train this. Start with something really simple like a 5-finger pattern that you know by heart. Play it while looking at your hands, and now do it again, but this time force yourself to look at the sheet music instead, or the ceiling or somewhere. Don't look down, no matter how much you want to. Feel the distance between the keys and trust your muscle memory. Your hands know where to go better than you think. Once you're good with that, try it with a very easy sight reading piece. As you play a bar, consciously force your eyes to move to the next one. And at first, just try to look 1 or 2 beats ahead. And as that gets easier, try looking a full bar ahead. A teacher of mine used to cover up the bar I was playing with a piece of paper to force me to read ahead. I don't think I appreciated that at the time, but I absolutely do now. So this skill builds over time, and be patient with yourself. You're training your working memory to hold a small chunk of music in your mind while you play it. So when you combine this with pattern recognition, you'll soon find that you can process whole phrases at a glance. You can see a chord shape or a scale run and send that entire chunk of information to your fingers, and your eyes will be already moving on to what's next. So let's recap. The 3 strategies for doubling your sight reading speed are just about practicing smarter. First, stop reading notes and start seeing patterns. See the music in chunks, like words, not letters, and that alone removes a huge cognitive load and gives you more mental bandwidth. The second thing is to slow down to a tempo where you can play continuously. So that's how you build real confidence and skill to replace the panic and the bad habits. And third, keep your eyes on the music and try to look ahead. Trust your hands and give your brain a head start on what's coming next. So that's it. If you found these tips helpful, do me a favour, hit that like button, it really helps the channel. And make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more tips to help you practice smarter, not harder. Let me know down in the comments which of these was the biggest aha moment for you, and I'd love to hear which one you're going to try. Also, if you check the description, you'll find a link to register for my free training called the Piano Practice Gap, 3 Secrets to 10x Your Progress. And I'd love you to have that information too, so go ahead and sign up for that. And remember, sight reading isn't some magical talent that you're either born with or you're not. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned if you have the right strategy. It's not about having a special gift, it's about having the right keys to unlock the abilities that you already have. So start putting those 3 strategies into practice, even just for 5 minutes a day, and I promise you will be amazed at how quickly you improve. You've got this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.